What is your biggest financial concern? Are you being as intentional with your finances as you could be? How confident are you that you'll reach your financial goals? How will life's transitions impact your financial plan? Welcome to the Clarity and Confidence for Life podcast with Tom Fleishel, founder, president, and CEO of Fleishel Financial Associates. Discover how we can help business owners, successful families, and corporate executives achieve clarity and confidence for life while providing tailored financial solutions that eliminate complexity and free you up to focus on what really matters in life to you and your family. Now, on to the show.
Hello and welcome to the Clarity and Confidence for Life podcast with your host, Tom Fleishel. I'm RJ Malik, producer of this podcast. Hello, Tom. How are you today?
Great. Good morning.
Good morning. I see you have a guest, so why don't you take it away? Introduce your guest and let us know what you're going to be talking about on this edition of Clarity and Confidence for Life.
Absolutely. Today, I'm so excited to have on the show Diane Gilman, TV's Gene Queen, breast cancer survivor, pro-aging advocate, author of not 2, but 3 books, Good Genes and Too Young to Be Old, and a new one to be released very soon. So welcome, Diane.
Hi, nice to be here.
I'm so glad you could join the show. You know, I have a lot of ladies in my life. I have my wife, Becky. I've got 2 daughters. I've got 2 older sisters. I've got a great team of female staff, all female team on our board, and then a myriad of female clients. So this is kind of why I wanted to do this podcast with Diane.
Okay, great.
So, Diane, I wanted to start out with, a lot of the ladies that we work with struggle with this midlife situation. It brings new challenges and, I guess, opportunities. But how did this stage of life lead to your greatest success?
That's very interesting. I was always fascinated and actually obsessed with fashion design. I knew what I wanted to be, and I just didn't know how to get there from the time I was about 3 years old. And at a certain point, at about 43 years old, I felt I had achieved something. I had departments with my name up in lights in every major department store in America, but it still didn't feel like quite enough. I started a lawsuit, had not gotten paid properly, lost my name, lost the right to use my name. And 4 years later, I thought, I'm going to have to go for a total life change. I got a phone call out of the clear blue sky. Here was the call. Hello? Is Diane there? And I'm thinking, I don't know. Who is this? Oh, this is QVC. We'd like to have you come on TV and design for us. And I said, I'm sorry. You're just too late. I can't put my name on a label. I'm in the middle of a lawsuit, and I'll never forget it. The girl said, that's no problem. We'll just call you Diane. And that started my TV career. I had no intentions of ever being on TV. Okay, so I was doing hand-painted silks. They were extremely popular, but it wasn't really my heart. I go on and on. They're selling. I'm number 2 consistently for fashion. And one day, as I turn about 58 years old, so about 10 years onward, I realize I'm middle-aged, I'm chubby, I'm frumpy, and I can't wear my favorite thing, which is jeans, because I had actually hand-painted, slashed, jeweled, distressed denim for rock and roll stars in the 60s going into the 70s, the whole music scene in California, LA, and then San Francisco for years. I thought, whoa, this is so unfair. So I made myself a pair of jeans. I had a sewing room. We were still manufacturing in America. And it changed my life. I mean, I felt 20 years younger, hipper. People treated me like I was more relevant and intelligent. And so I thought, wait a second. If everybody felt the way I do about a pair of jeans, I've got a huge business here. We just got a female CEO, Mindy Grossman, I'd switched to HSN, Home Shopping Network. I brought it to her. She said, okay. I'll give you a chance, not prime time, but I'll give you 1 hour to prove yourself. We sold out in 3 minutes. We had nothing left to sell the rest of the hour.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
And it started a phenomenon that turned into a consistent $100 million a year retail business every year. And that happened to me at the age of 60. So I waited all those years. Everybody else in my fashion industry timeline group had quit, gone bankrupt, gone into a new industry, passed away. I must have been the oldest living designer, and there I was, and there was my success. I started to reach my pinnacle in a youth-obsessed industry, fashion and television, at an unheard of age of 60. So what I would say to any woman is don't give up on your dreams and don't rigidly calendar your life.
Amen.
If you're doing something that is your passion and purpose, as fashion was for me, then just keep on doing it.
So your light bulb moment was basically when you made your first pair of jeans yourself, and it transformed and everything went from there?
Yeah, it totally, completely changed my life.
So with that big change that occurred, you were 60 years old. What was your game plan for navigating from there successfully and staying ahead in your career?
My life has always been so complicated, and it's always been about breaking down barriers. And the first one was, although you may think of the women's fashion industry as female, it's actually male dominated. So I was always looking for the right partners, but also the right production partners. And I think the partners I had were very limited, or else we would have gone into a lot of other product categories like perfume, shoes, face creams, and done it successfully. But we stayed where we were, but the growth was really just meteoric. I wrote my first book, and then my partner died of brain cancer. And that was just horrific. And it was very complicated. And we couldn't get a grip on the total financial area of the business because he had controlled all that. Then I went to a new partnership, which actually brought me some significant, not Jeff Bezos type, but significant money. And I gave over my business. And then I had another idea, which was women are the same all over the world. Everybody goes through that change of life and doesn't like who they are on the other side, but they like themselves better when they can fit into a jean that actually is appropriate for their age group and their body. So I brought the idea to QVC management, which had the international tele-retail business. Please give me a chance. So at the age of about 65, I started with QVC UK, shot to number 1. QVC Italy, Milan, shot to number 1. Opened QVC France for them, was number 1. QVC Germany, then the Shopping Channel Canada, and the Shopping Channel Australia. So the problem was there was only one me. And everybody wants you on television, yourself, selling, because you're the inventor, you're the name on the label, you're the jean queen. And it was very, very, you pay the price if you want to grow. Very often, if you're the sole generator of the money, honestly, at the base of it all, you are going to lead an incredibly stressful life. And I'm one of those people that likes stress, so that's okay with me. It seems normal to me. But at the age of 72, I'd had symptoms, and I kept saying to myself, oh, don't be ridiculous. You've never even been in a hospital for one night. I was diagnosed with breast cancer, had to say my goodbyes to an audience, say, I'll be back. Don't forget me. Wait for me. Thought I'd be gone for a year, but actually was back on and just too much pressure 8 months later. And realized after being back on for about a year that chemotherapy had just been really abusive on my body. And I also thought to myself at the age of 74, 75 by that point, is this all you want to do with your life? When you have cancer and you get a diagnosis like I did, you realize you're not immortal. So if you've got 10 years or 20 years left, hopefully, or 30 years in front of you, is this all you want to be remembered for? Or do you want more? What is your legacy and what is your purpose? And cancer in every positive, good way woke me up and changed my life.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to dive in on. So your battle with breast cancer was very transformative from what I understand. How did that experience shape your perspective and inspire you going forward?
I'll tell you a story. I was used to being, even though I worked so hard and was always on an airplane, I was pampered. I was in an ivory tower. I mean, I designed, I went on TV, I built an audience of about 750,000 women who regularly watched. We had a very close-knit, loving community. Was traveled first class, stayed in 5-star hotels, was stopped on the streets for autographs, in the airports for autographs and photos, and okay, minor celebrity life. So I'm sitting in an infusion room, Mount Sinai Hospital, New York City, getting chemo, and I'm at a specialized clinic, the Dubin Clinic, which was built by a woman, Eva Dubin. Beautiful. White orchids everywhere. Just a real girly place. You know, windows looking out on Fifth Avenue and catered organic meals. And it was just lovely. If you were going to be sick, that's where you wanted to be sick. And one day I hear, Sheila! It's the room next to me, the infusion room next to me. Sheila, you're back. Oh my God, you look so good. Hey, everybody. All the other nurses. Sheila's here. All the nurses come thundering in. So me, so competitive, so used to being treated like I'm somebody, I'm thinking, who the hell is Sheila? She must be a news anchor on MSNBC, NBC, ABC morning show, or she must be a Broadway star, or she must be a famous author, or she must be a famous socialite, but I'm not getting any attention. How could that be? So finally the nurse gets to me and I said, you didn't even ask me about lunch today. And that woman next door, you said you're going to give her 4 lunches. What, do I look like chopped liver to you? What is the problem? She said, Diane, you never eat lunch. I said, yeah, but I might. She said, okay, Diane, do you want lunch today? And I said, well, no, thank you. But I do want to know who this woman is. So is she a famous person? Is she a socialite? Is she a TV soap opera star? Who is she? And how come she gets 4 lunches? She said, Diane, she's an abused wife. It's too dangerous for her to go home. She's got stage 3 cancer in both breasts. She came into us totally beaten up. She's living in a homeless shelter with her child, and she can't eat the food. It's so horrible. She goes days without eating. This is basically her favorite sandwich today. And we're going to give her 4 of them so she has 4 days when she can eat.
Wow.
And I broke down in tears.
Mm.
And I thought to myself, you see what really counts in life? Kindness, caring, it totally changed my perspective. I came out a different person with a different set of needs, but also recognizing how precious life is and what was my purpose. And with my celebrity and the position I was in with women, what could I do? So sometimes the most profound and the absolute scariest event in your life can become the greatest learning lesson and set you on a new course.
That's powerful. That's so powerful, Diane. Our listeners are really going to love that. That's a very impressive, big lesson you learned during that whole experience. And a lot of people, get so depressed and discouraged, but you turned that into a transformative life lesson.
Yeah, huge.
I wanted to go back a little bit further. When you did this whole on-air personality for the Home Shopping Network and all these different countries, how did you make sure your message and brand resonated with, I guess, over 600,000 plus audience? So how did you make that happen?
Well, I realized that, pardon me for saying the word in front of you, gentlemen, menopause was not something that only recognized certain countries, that women uniformly all over the world were going to go through the change of life, and they were going to come out different and maybe very different on the other side. And their bodies were different, and the distribution of fat was different. And so I always used to say, whether you are in London and eating fish and chips, or you're in Italy and eating a plate of pasta, after that point in your life, you need this gene because it goes against all industry standards and has very different measurements from an ordinary gene. And it's built for you, a woman over 50. And so you have your very own personalized must-have everyday piece of clothing. I modeled it after everything I felt about the gene and the fact that I wore it every day of my life for like years and years afterwards.
So your second book, Too Young to Be Old, is deeply impactful. What do you hope to achieve with its publication?
Well, I think that the title alone says a lot, which is at least, and I think much more for a woman than for a man, your mindset as a female is everything. And I think whether you're middle-aged or I'm going to be turning 80 in a couple of weeks, which seems impossible to me, but it's true, you've got to recognize the period of life you're in and figure out how to navigate it and figure out how to embellish it and make it productive and always be in a growth period. And so Too Young to Be Old is in your head. You should always be too young to be old.
Very cool. Very cool. So what advice would you give to our listeners about taking a leap and chasing their dreams in midlife and beyond?
Well, the first thing I would ask you is, are you satisfied? Are you stimulated? Are you excited to wake up every morning? You've got to nourish your soul and your brain. And the one thing that I felt, I've been on television for 30 years. It just became 31 at the beginning of this year. And I could have done it in my sleep. I could have done it in a semi-coma. And was that really what I wanted? Did I want to just go on like just sort of coasting and kind of unchallenged? And I don't think that's a way to age. I think that's a way to age way too quickly. The second thing I would say to you is, if you go through any sort of scary period, like I went through with breast cancer, and 50% of America will within their lifetime, what you should get out of it is you are not here by accident. If you survive, you're here for a purpose. Find your purpose. I don't care if it's even something like you bake the best chocolate chip cookie in your church community and you always sell out, in church bazaars and stuff. Whatever it is that you feel you do really well, feed your soul, do it. You are never too old to dream and make your dreams come true. Look at Colonel Sanders. He drove a municipal bus for his entire professional career and then took like his gold watch money when he retired and opened up a little chicken stand on the highway, and it became a gigantic, lasting, institutional name in American cuisine. So who's to say when your big moment is going to come along? But what happens is women don't have other women's support. They stop dreaming. They stop hoping. And that means they stop feeling worthy. And it is a downward cycle. So don't even get into that. Don't put a lid on it. No, no, no.
Was the situation that you had with the woman that was with you in the hospital room and that transformative aha moment that you had, was that what really focused you forward on really helping other people, especially like this book and so forth? Was that what transformed that? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I was in two careers, television, visual, communications, and fashion, that are very selfish, very narcissistic, very competitive, not in a nice way, careers. I had to totally rethink how I treated people, what I wanted them to remember me for. It was, I know it sounds so crazy, but honestly, it was such a reboot of my spiritual life that I have no negative thoughts about having cancer, only positive.
Wow.
I feel in its own strange way, it was a tremendous gift. And what I found and discovered out of that was not only did I have a talent for fashion, which I love still to this day, and communication, television, but I have a passion and purpose for being able to take people that feel lost and depressed and give them the hope that they can get on a meaningful, lighted path. And that was something that never occurred to me, but it was almost like a gift given to me, because the truth is, I had a husband that died of cancer. I had no family support. And if I wasn't going to give that lighted path to myself while I went through treatment, nobody else was. So like everything else in life, I experienced it for myself first and then said, you know what? I think this could be great for millions of women, and found my purpose in my late 70s, going onward into my 80s and beyond.
That's impressive. You know, in my book, my last chapter talks about money as a means to an end. What's your purpose? And how do people find their purpose in life? And you're right. It's all about, what do you value? What's important now? Rethinking that at different stages of our life, different triggers that cause that. So that's so important. And I really appreciate you sharing that. As we wrap up today, I wanted to ask one last question, kind of the way I like to do on all of my podcasts. Is there a question, Diane, that I should have asked you that I didn't?
No. I thought you asked nothing but really great questions and pertinent questions.
Okay.
I don't think I'm the easiest person to follow, but I think I would just wrap it up myself if I had one more answer to give and say, I'm going into my 80s. It's unknown territory. I would say the biggest message is it's the era of don't take anything for granted and be grateful for everything you get and can execute upon. So that's my little 80s is the new 80s logo.
Diane, it's been wonderful to have you on the show. I really appreciate your thoughts and information. And how can people reach out to you?
Well, if you go, I have YouTube channel, I have Instagram, I have TikTok, and it's all under the DianeGilman.com in small caps. So we'll give you all the graphics so you can put it up with the podcast as well.
Awesome.
That sounds good, Tom. How about your contact information?
Well, they could reach us at FleishelFinancial.com or go on our website there, and also on Amazon. Our book, Clarity and Confidence for Life, is on Amazon.com.
Excellent. And thank you for listening to the Clarity and Confidence for Life podcast. We ask you to share this podcast, rate it, and leave a review because this actually helps others find the show. Again, thank you for listening. And for everyone at Clarity and Confidence for Life, I'm RJ Malik, and we look forward to you joining us for the next podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Clarity and Confidence for Life podcast. Click the subscribe button to be notified of new episodes when they become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the hosts and/or guests and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Raymond James. This content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional financial advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service providers with any questions you may have regarding your individual situation. Securities are offered through Raymond James Financial Services Incorporated, member FINRA, and SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Raymond James Financial Services Advisors Incorporated. Fleishel Financial Associates is not a broker-dealer and is independent of Raymond James Financial Services.